Good morning, guys, and welcome to the 5th week of the 50 book challenge. Today we're discussing No More Mr. Nice Guy by Robert Glover. No More Mr. Nice Guy is a book written for recovering nice guys, where it essentially tackles the challenges that men experienced growing up that later caused them to develop a specific view on the world. The book teaches the reader about how this view developed, and it challenges it, providing an alternative way of looking at their approach to the world. Glover introduces a concept of survival mechanisms, where he addresses several situations in which all children face abandonment at some point in their life. This includes situations where the child is hungry and no one feeds them, a parent puts unrealistic expectations on him, he cries and no one holds him, a parent hits him, and there are numerous other examples listed. He states that whenever a child experiences any kind of abandonment, he'll always believe that he is the cause of what has happened to him. Consequently, this develops into an idea that Glover refers to as toxic shame. The concept of toxic shame suggests to the child that there must be something wrong with them which causes the important people in their lives to abandon them, and that it's not acceptable for them to live as they currently are. As a result of these abandonment experiences and the faulty interpretation of these events, all children develop survival mechanisms to help them do three very important things. 1. Try to cope with the emotional and physical distress of being abandoned. 2. Try to prevent similar events from happening again. And 3. Try to hide their internalized toxic shame or perceived badness from themselves and others. Glover states how it is not unusual at some point in childhood for nice guys to have made a conscious decision to be different from their fathers. I think this is a valuable thing to point out because it's important for a recovering nice guy to recognize this concept. Many people who fall into the nice guy category are oblivious to the fact that they are recognized as a nice guy. The want to be different from your father can act as an identifier to see if you are one of the people that Glover discusses in this book. He states how the unavailability of fathers during the 40s, 50s, and 60s required mothers to take on the role of fathers. This unavailability was due to families moving to cities after World War II, where fathers would be working long hours in industrial jobs. Consequently, fathers were not there to form a close relationship with their children, and mothers had to teach their sons how to be male from a female perspective. Glover believes that this teaching of masculinity from a female perspective is responsible for the significant number of nice guys produced during the time period of the 1940s to the 1960s. An interesting thing here then is that once men have been raised with the female perspective of masculinity and embrace it for the remainder of their lives, they'll raise their children in a similar manner, causing a generational shift away from traditional masculinity. Regardless of the debate between gender roles and however you feel about masculine versus feminine behavior, one undeniable consequence of being raised this way is that men become comfortable having their manhood defined by women. This ultimately means that men seek out validation from women to prove that they're worthy, as they were taught to do with their mother growing up. Glover refers to the value-seeking mechanisms that nice guys use as attachments. Nice guys attach their identity and worth to these things, and use them to convince themselves and others that they are valuable. They approach life with the idea that they are not okay just as they are, and have to prove to themselves and others that they are lovable and desirable. This is accomplished through their commitment to being good and doing everything correctly, as it directly challenges their internalized belief of themselves. A list of these approval-seeking behaviors includes having one's hair just right, being smart, making other people happy, being different from other men, never offending anyone, being a good worker. The behavior listed here is very interesting because the core ideas focus on being perfect or sacrificing in your own life to ensure other people are satisfied. Ideas such as making sure your hair is just right or being different suggest that nice guys have an overwhelming desire to be recognized and seen as worthy due to their internalized feelings of toxic shame. The ideas such as never offending anyone, making other people happy, and being a good worker all come with the risk of not being able to ask for what you want in life. If you have to avoid offending people or making them unhappy, you don't have the ability to challenge their beliefs and state your own requests. Instead, you'd simply blindly accept their orders. In a similar manner, being a good worker might mean that you work overtime or go out of your way to do stuff that isn't part of your job description, ultimately with the intention of being seen as worthy and valuable. Therefore, challenging these ideas and being able to accept the fact that it's okay to not be perfect or live up to these standards can enable you to begin living for yourself more. This allows you to do what you actually want to do in life and feel valued and loved without having to do anything extra. To challenge these ideas, Glover gives 2 suggestions. 1. Go on a moratorium from this behavior. Set a period of time to stop doing it. Tell the people around you what you're doing. If you slip, tell a safe person about it. Use the slip as information about why, in that particular moment, you felt the need to get external approval. Number 2, consciously do more of this behavior. This may not make logical sense, but it's a powerful way to explore any dysfunctional behavior. Observe how you feel when you consciously try harder to get external validation. With the first idea, it provides 2 benefits. Firstly, it enables you to quit that behavior temporarily in order to identify if the behavior actually benefits your life. If you quit exercising that behavior and find that nothing changes, or the quality of your life actually improves, you can continue living life with this newfound knowledge. An example of this may be voicing your ideas or challenging someone's beliefs if you disagree with them. As a result, you might actually feel more important and valued, especially if the other person listens and makes adjustments. Secondly, however, if you feel as though you can't stick to this behavior, it enables the opportunity to think about why you were seeking external validation. If you were afraid to cause conflict because you wanted to be liked, perhaps it might be a repetition of behavior from your childhood in which you were afraid of abandonment. You can gain an understanding of the source, which then enables you to tackle the problem. The second idea seems counterintuitive, but it provides a similar result. If you actively seek out more external validation, you'll uncover how it makes you feel. Ultimately, these 2 exercises are there to allow you to see that you're dependent on external validation. Many nice guys aren't aware of their situation, as they were raised without the knowledge that any alternatives exist. Exhibiting more of this attention-seeking behavior can help you recognize how dependent you are on the opinions of others. If you feel worse about yourself when you exhibit this behavior, it helps you recognize the self-destructive actions you've been implementing into your life all along. Glover states how as recovering nice guys release their toxic shame and start seeking their own approval, they begin to realize several important truths. They are not bad. They don't have to do anything to win other people's approval. They don't have to hide their perceived flaws or mistakes. And people can love them just as they are. For nice guys who may have concerns about making changes to their behavior, Glover provides an encouraging concept. Interestingly enough, when nice guys take responsibility for their own needs and make them a priority, those around them benefit too. Gone are the covert contracts, the guessing games, the anger outbursts, and passive-aggressive behavior. Gone are the manipulation, the controlling behavior, and the resentment. The concept of covert contracts mentioned is in relation to the idea that nice guys only do things for others with the expectation that others will do the same thing back to them. In this sense, nice guys aren't actually as nice as they appear on the surface. As they're unable to explicitly state what they desire due to the fear of causing conflict, they have to fulfill these needs through other measures. This might include manipulation, but may also be achieved by doing something for someone else, purely with the intention of the other person reciprocating. This is incredibly evident when it comes to relationships with nice guys. When nice guys invest time and energy into developing a relationship with a woman, they expect her to give something in return. The nice guy might believe that he has to prove himself to this woman and suggest that he's worthy of her time by never causing conflict and ultimately being nice. However, if despite his efforts, the woman remains uninterested in beginning a relationship, the nice guy suddenly changes his behavior, disrespecting the woman and insulting her. This happens as a result of the fact that the nice guy expected something from the woman in return for him being nice to her. None of his behavior was selfless, and he wasn't doing it for the sake of being nice, but instead for the sake of a reward. In every interaction with a nice guy, there's an unspoken contract present. They are never doing anything for the benefit of anybody but themselves. A valuable line from the book is, don't focus on the other person, as in, you are making me mad. Instead, take responsibility for what you're feeling. I am feeling angry. The idea here is that you are responsible for your own emotions, and as a result, this means that you have control over them. Blaming someone else for the way that you feel suggests that they are the one who has control over your response. Not only does this prevent you from resolving your emotions yourself, it also causes conflict between you and the other person you're engaging with. Understanding that you're able to choose your emotional response to a situation gives you great control over your internal state of well-being, and ultimately suggests that the only source of validation that matters is internal validation. In a similar manner, nice guys might believe that they're unable to set boundaries, as they can't change the way that other people behave. Understanding that you are the one who controls your boundaries, not others, provides you with more control over your life. Glover writes, in time, they also learn that boundary setting isn't about getting other people to be different, but about getting themselves to be different. If someone is crossing their boundary, it isn't the other person's problem. It's theirs. Ultimately, there are expectations we have of other people, but we can't enforce this behavior. If they cross our boundaries, we are responsible for making a change to ourselves, not that person. Either that means distancing ourselves from that person, reinforcing those boundaries even more, or completely eliminating that person from your life. However, blaming that person for crossing your boundaries will not work to strengthen your boundaries. It'll simply make you more vulnerable, as you no longer believe that you're the one in control of them. Glover provides an anecdote of a recovering nice guy named Matt. Matt's mother had always portrayed his dad as a villain, while representing herself as a victim. While talking to his father, Matthew came to the realization that even though his dad had problems, he wasn't bad like his mother made him out to be. The primary idea here is that it's important to form your own view of your father. Glover goes into more detail on this idea by suggesting that, for nice guys, re-examining their relationship with their fathers means seeing their dads through their own eyes as they really are. It means taking them out of the gutter or off the pedestal. It's interesting that he provides two ways of changing this view of your father. For many people, they might have negative views of their fathers, whether through hearing stories about them or through first-hand experience. However, some people may idolize their father. This means that they seek validation in search of being more like him. The reason why it's important to make this change is because it directly challenges the nice guy's desire to be different from their fathers. This desire causes them to avoid any behavior that their fathers exhibited, not just the undesirable ones. For example, if their father was an abusive alcoholic, they'll avoid conflict, will suppress their feelings of rage, and will let others dictate their behavior. Although the undesirable behavior here was the abusive nature and the alcohol addiction, the nice guy views their father's behavior as a whole package. Therefore, they link expressing anger and conflict to being like their father, which means they avoid it altogether. By re-examining this view and seeing their fathers more accurately, nice guys can begin to accept these men for who they were and are, wounded human beings. As a result, these nice guys can understand that they are capable of demonstrating their masculine nature and can accept their needs and wants without being viewed as a bad person. It separates their father's behavior into identifiable elements rather than associating perfectly healthy behavior with the less desirable ones. A less obvious benefit of a nice guy's recovery is that he can demonstrate to his daughter what a real man looks like. Despite the potentially dated idea of a real man, Glover's ideas still hold significant weight. It's obvious that being a mentally healthy father will assist them in raising a boy, as they can help them come to terms with their masculinity. However, girls benefit by seeing their father set boundaries, ask for what they want in clear and direct ways, work hard, create, produce, have male friends, and make their own needs a priority. This proves especially useful when it comes time for these girls to enter their own relationships, as it sets a standard for the type of guy they should date. Knowing that a healthy male is capable of setting boundaries and displaying emotions in a safe way without demonstrating an abusive nature can protect these girls from ending up in dangerous or unhealthy relationships. To help nice guys decide if they need to set a boundary with a particular behavior, Glover proposes a concept he calls the second date rule. Using this rule, nice guys ask themselves, if this behavior had occurred on the second date, would there have been a third? This question makes it evident to the nice guy whether the behavior he's been accepting is okay or not. This concept is applied to existing relationships in which nice guys find themselves unhappy with their partners and the way that they're treated as a consequence of not having set boundaries in the past. By thinking back to the start of the relationship and applying the second date rule, nice guys can identify if they need to reinforce stronger boundaries. Glover also proposes the healthy male rule. When a nice guy has identified a behavior that they deemed unacceptable and disruptive of their boundaries, they can simply ask themselves, how would a healthy male handle this situation? This question allows them to view the situation from the perspective of somebody else. As a result, they might be able to make use of their intuition and act on the situation based on what they believe to be right, rather than falling back on their people-pleasing behavior. When facing challenges in a relationship, a nice guy should refrain from saying things such as, if she would just do this, the relationship would be perfect. Instead, he should ask why he formed the relationship in the first place. How does the relationship recreate familiar relationship dynamics, and what unconscious needs does it meet? Typically, nice guys will form relationships with people that simulate the behavior of their parents. This means that if their parents were abusive, they may be more likely to end up in abusive relationships. If their parents were dependent on them, they may get into a relationship with a partner who is dependent on them. This is the result of forming a familiar relationship dynamic. Nice guys may believe that these relationships are the only way of experiencing love. If they received attention from their parents in the form of abuse, they may believe that they need an abusive partner in order to recreate the relationship their parents had. Therefore, instead of thinking negatively about the behavior your partner exhibits, identify why you were drawn to it in the first place and what unconscious influences there may have been in making your decision. By addressing this, you might draw links to your relationship with your parents and can begin to bring these unconscious needs to light. Ultimately then, the next time you find yourself feeling frustrated, resentful, or rageful at your partner, you can ask yourself why you invited that person into your life, what you have to learn from the situation, and how would your view of the situation change if you saw it as a gift. Being able to identify the causes for your initial attraction to that person may inform you about any unconscious influences that you have. Using this then, you can view the relationship as a gift, a way of controlling the dynamic you could never have with your parents. If your partner doesn't respect your boundaries, this is the time for you to reinforce those boundaries. Although you never could with your parents, this relationship may provide the ability to come to terms with what a healthy relationship looks like, and can allow you to reclaim and repair the broken relationship dynamics that existed within your mind. You seek this relationship out for a reason, and you can use it as a gift to transform it into the relationship you desire, painting over your old view of relationships with a new, healthier one. To conclude with, Glover provides a few useful ideas to keep in mind. As in nature, the greatest aphrodisiac is self-confidence. As recovering nice guys become comfortable just being themselves, they begin to look more attractive. Self-respect, courage, and integrity look good on a man. You do not need to change yourself or perfect any aspect of your life to be attractive. Simply living with self-acceptance and being truthful to yourself is the most attractive thing you can offer. People will like you for who you are. Some people may not, but being comfortable with that enables you to be seeked out by those who do. Glover provides a list of rules below that you can implement into your life, hopefully in order to help you live in line with the person that you truly are. I've highlighted the ones most applicable to me, which are: put yourself first. Whatever you do, do it 100%. Ask for what you want. Be clear and direct. Learn to say no. Live with integrity. Decide what feels right to you, then do it. This book was a very interesting read for me. It's a book that I wasn't able to identify with too strongly, as I don't currently find myself exhibiting these behaviors that frequently. However, it discusses concepts that definitely used to be relevant to me in the past, and I observe surprisingly frequently among other men. I think I naturally learned the lessons discussed in the book just throughout my life, and I've already made quite a few adjustments in the direction of the life that I'd like to move towards. With that being said, there were still various topics mentioned that did have a lasting impact on me following the conclusion of the book. In my everyday life, I typically don't seek approval, and I'm satisfied with prioritizing myself. However, in a relationship setting, this is something that I've proven to struggle with time and time again. The main takeaway from the book in this regard is that in relationships, you shouldn't have to go out of your way to exhibit unnatural behavior in search of approval from your partner. It's acceptable and potentially even beneficial to be true to yourself, and the appreciation from your partner should come naturally, as a result of you being who you are. This doesn't mean not to make an effort in the relationship, but it more so means not to place your partner on a pedestal and think that you have to hold up a perfect image of yourself to avoid feeling inferior to them. Another important takeaway from the book is in regards to acting upon my wishes in fear of being shamed for them. The most prominent one in my life right now is filming in public, as it's a relatively new change that I'm still adjusting to with the creation of this YouTube channel. Simply just recording myself in public feels awkward to do, and I worry about the judgment I receive. This fear of being judged may also be present itself in regards to showing emotion, singing, and expressing my opinions to others. This is something I wish to work on, and No More Mr. Nice Guy provided me with the reassurance that I don't need to change the way I see things in search of validation. One issue I bump into here is the issue of holding on to my opinions when I am the outlier. Of course, it's easy to say that you don't need to change your views to seek out validation, and that people should appreciate you just as you are. However, having controversial views or being seen as the outlier in situations might result in putting yourself in an unfavorable position that you could have otherwise avoided. Ultimately, this is a concept that I think I need to just think over more and figure out an answer, but Glover's book provides substantial food for thought in that aspect. Something I thought about while reading this book is that in terms of self-improvement for women, I'm not sure if it's just because I haven't actively searched for it much, but I do notice that there seems to be a distinct lack of self-improvement resources for women, and most of the stuff in regards to self-improvement and whatever other books and articles and YouTube videos you find in that aspect are catered towards men. It was just an observation that I found pretty interesting. Similarly, if certain characteristics are defined as masculine, what are feminine characteristics? Are they simply the lack of masculine characteristics? Or how does that work? Because if you were to see something like self-control, being hardworking, being powerful, those things as masculine, then if a woman demonstrates those behaviors, are they not feminine, or can you be masculine and feminine at the same time? I feel like that terminology confuses me a bit, because inherently masculine characteristics are still displayed in women. So yeah, I wasn't entirely sure how those terms actually work. In the book, it mentions how nice guys frequently decide during their upbringing that they'd like to be different from their fathers, and this was something that I experienced growing up as a child. I didn't grow up especially close to my father, and I generally tended to gravitate towards my mother. However, the more that I grow up, and the older that I get, the more I begin to see things from my father's perspective, and my respect for him grows. I now make a conscious effort to repair the relationship between me and my father, and take his advice and life views on board to help me identify the responsibilities that are required of me as a man. The book was slightly confusing to read at times, as the same ideas were mentioned numerous times with slightly different wording. So when I was reading it, I had a sense of deja vu, and it was making me question whether I'd accidentally skipped pages. For example, the idea of survival mechanisms was repeated twice, only a few pages apart with the nearly identical wording. There were also times when a sentence was left incomplete, evidently an editing error in this version of the book, as it was adapted from the original release. Conclusively then, my overall thoughts were that this book provides significant value to most people among the modern generation. Despite being written over 20 years ago, I feel like this book is as relevant as ever, and there's a steady increase in people that Glover would refer to as nice guys. I believe the book could have been written slightly more concisely with less repetition of ideas, but disregarding this minor complaint, No More Mr. Nice Guy can aid many modern men who have struggled with the experiences of abandonment throughout their childhood and continue to seek validation from others in order to feel satisfied and worthy. It provides a refreshingly brave approach to addressing these ideas, not hesitating to challenge some social norms in regards to masculinity and other potentially controversial ideas. Thanks for watching my summary and discussion of No More Mr. Nice Guy by Robert Glover. Next week, I'll be discussing The Case Against the Sexual Revolution by Louise Perry. I think this book is an absolutely incredible read, and it provides many thought-provoking ideas that challenge the sexual revolution and modern dating culture as we know it. No matter how you feel about this topic, I think the book is a valuable read to at least gain a better understanding of both sides. Be sure to subscribe so that you get notified when I upload, as you don't want to miss this next week's book review. See you next week.